Well, good evening and welcome. You are in the right place at the right time for the Abortion Pill Dangers Exposed webcast. I want to greet you and literally thousands of pro-life advocates who are joining us from coast to coast. We were just talking in the green room before we got started about how many people just with 48 hours notice have joined us for this important event. And I want to be the first to officially welcome you to our time together. My name is David B. Wright, and I am blessed to serve as the executive director of the Life Leadership Conference. That's a brand new organization that brings together pro-life leaders, organizations, philanthropists, and advocates, so together we can achieve maximum collective life-saving impact. And that's exactly what we are aiming to do here tonight. I will be serving as your host for this urgent online event. You and thousands of other people joining us from all across the United States of America, and even people joining us from far beyond. During our time together during this important briefing, you are going to discover breaking new evidence about the abortion pill's serious dangers to women. And you are going to learn how you can help to stop this crisis before more women suffer irreversible harm. I probably don't need to convince you that abortion is a crisis, but perhaps you didn't know that in the United States, abortion is the leading cause of death. I had somebody challenge me on that just yesterday, and they said, really, what are you talking about? Well, if you look up the data, last year, more than 1 million lives were ended by abortion. That's more than the 700,000 lives lost to heart disease, the 600,000 lost last year to cancer, the 200,000 lost to accidents. It's more than any other single cause. And right now, there's a seismic shift that has been happening just over these last few years in the delivery of abortions. Because today, abortion pills now account for well over 63% of all abortions. I've been to towns and states where it's 80%. 8 out of 10 abortions are committed chemically. And these pills are not just dispensed at hospitals and doctors' offices, they're being mailed across state lines. They're being mailed from other countries with no safety protection. And this abortion pill is being marketed as safe and effective. But we now know, and tonight you're about to discover, that real-world evidence and real women's stories tell a very different scenario and show a very dangerous reality. The new research that you're going to be hearing about tonight reveals that chemical abortions are actually 22 times more dangerous for women than the FDA currently admits, placing countless women at risk. And now there's even additional data exposing that these pills not only are causing harm, but they also fail at more than double the rate cited in the FDA's clinical trials. Women deserve better than this. Women deserve the truth. They don't need FDA deception, they don't need big pharma spin, and they don't need abortion industry propaganda. So tonight we're going to expose it all. You're going to hear from doctors, researchers, survivors, and pro-life leaders to equip and empower you to take action to make a life-saving difference. The opportunity that this information provides to all of us, I believe, is the single biggest pro-life breakthrough since the overturn of Roe versus Wade. And we all know what a huge landmark that was. And now we have an opportunity to continue to advance the cause of life. So during our time together, you'll learn disturbing findings from America's largest real-world abortion pill analysis, data the abortion industry and their political allies are desperate to keep hidden. You're going to learn about the 1 in 10 risk of severe complications for women taking abortion pills. You'll learn how crucial safety protections were stripped away by previous administrations, increasing the risk of harm to women. You'll learn about newly revealed data challenging the long-standing claims about so-called safety and effectiveness. These revelations have the opportunity to shape the entire national debate. You're going to hear tonight a courageous woman's firsthand experience, a heart-wrenching experience with abortion pill complications, and you're going to learn how you can help make a difference. You will learn tonight the single most effective step you can take right now to help protect women's health, protect life, protect safety before further harm occurs. And by the time we're done, I believe you will understand why your involvement right now is so essential to inform the public and stop this harm. One other quick announcement before we say a prayer and bring on our first speaker is that throughout this event, we're going to be telling you about the Stop harmingwomen.org website, as well as the Action Center, both of which you can access by clicking the buttons down below this video. We'll tell you more about them. Don't worry about it right now. But let's start this event the most important way we can. Let's begin with a word of opening prayer, if you'll please join me. Heavenly Father, thank you for this opportunity to come together in your name. You tell us where two or more gather in your name, that you're present in our midst, and we invite, we welcome, we ask for your presence to be with us. Thousands strong, we gather seeking to discern and follow your holy will, and how we can be a voice for the voiceless, how we can protect mothers, how we can protect children, and how we can end this atrocity of abortion pills and abortion that is a grievous, grievous evil that we know worries you and burdens your heart even more than it does ours. Dear Lord, be with each of our speakers, be with each of the attendees, help all of us to have the right words to say and the right actions that we take to advance your holy will. We ask that you guide and watch over the technology and this entire event, and we ask that it glorifies and honors you and accomplishes your holy will. And we ask all of this in the name of your Son, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. This is in his name we pray. Amen. Amen. Okay, well, with that, we've been talking about what we're going to cover tonight, and before I introduce our first speaker, I want to make sure you understand that what we're going to be covering tonight, it's not abstract, it's not theoretical. We are tonight going to be illustrating the humanity of the issues that we are talking about by hearing from a woman who herself was personally harmed by the abortion pill. So please take a listen to the story of Shanice.
I really didn't have no emotion. You're here, just get it done. They gave me the pill. I took one there with them, and then another one 72 hours later at home. And then the next day I noticed that I was bleeding, the cramps was coming back. I was like, okay, this is what they said was gonna happen. These are the symptoms, so I'm fine. I told my mom. She was like, you need to go back to Planned Parenthood and figure out what's going on with you, because you shouldn't be cramping like this. The cramp is unbearable. It kind of felt like somebody was stabbing me in my stomach. That's how bad the cramps was. It was really unbearable. I never cramped like that before. So I went back to Planned Parenthood 2 days after the abortion, and I told them the symptoms I was having. It was the same doctor that I seen. She took the ultrasound, and she's saying that it's no remains left, so I'm just agreeing with her because we're looking at the same thing on the ultrasound. They kind of just brushed it off and was like, hey, these are the symptoms, you're fine. And she just sent me about my way. So I go back home. I called my mom and I told her what happened, and she was just like, well, we'll just wait and see if the pain go away, take some Tylenol or Advil. We were supposed to take family pictures for the holidays, but we wasn't able to do that. She noticed that I was blue, pale, I just looked really lethargic and sick. So she's like, you should go to the hospital, since the hospital's right there up the street from the house. So my dad ended up taking me to the hospital. They checked me, they put me on IV, they do an ultrasound, and they told me that I still had remainings of the child left. So they took me into a surgery. That's when I started getting a fever. I was throwing up constantly. I remember the first 3 surgeries that I had to remove the remains of the child. All my family came, they prayed over me, and that was kind of the last thing I remembered. From there, went to septic shock. They ended up admitting me. They put me into induced coma because they knew I wasn't doing well. Kind of nearly died. I was there for maybe a week or so. They kept me, and then they wanted to transfer me to another hospital, maybe an hour away. I was still in a coma there. I wake up in ICU on a breathing tube. I was on blood transfusion. I had a stent in my neck so they could do blood work and all this other stuff. And I wasn't able to talk till the next day. My mom and my dad is constantly coming to see me. They stayed in Hartford and make sure I was okay. They was with me every day. I was finally able to talk, and then my mom came back in. I was like, hey, Mom. She was like, oh my gosh, you're able to talk. This is so good. Ooh, I'm glad you're still here. You're talking to me. So that was kind of very emotional for us. They told me it was very bad. The abortion pill gave me an infection behind my uterus, so I had to have a partial hysterectomy. Finally met with occupational therapy and physical therapy, and then they were just telling me hey, if you want to go home, I need you to do this. They showed me how to step in and out the shower, how to brush my teeth. I had to learn how to walk again after, had to learn how to write, chew, talk a little bit, how to do daily things. Didn't go home till maybe like the last week of February, and I was there from the beginning of January.
Thank you, Shanice, for your courage in sharing your experiences and your story in hope that will prevent others from having to go through some of the same traumatic circumstances that you went through. And I also want to thank profoundly Lila Rose, Christina Bennett, and the Live Action team for their willingness to share this powerful testimony with the world, and also for allowing us to use it here on this event tonight. It is now my honor to introduce our first presenter, somebody who has been driving this process of exposing the harm of the abortion pill. And that is my friend, my colleague, Ryan Anderson. Ryan is the president of the Ethics and Public Policy Center. Ryan, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, and thanks for hosting this.
Oh my goodness, it is such an important development and such a critical time, and to have so many people gathered here to say, what can we do to help stop this? Ryan, your team conducted the largest ever real-world abortion pill analysis. And I would love for you to share the groundbreaking findings that your research uncovered, but also why it is so vital for the public to know this information right now.
Sure, and I'm going to have to start by correcting you that it wasn't just my team. This has been a coalition-wide effort. Both in the research that went into this, there were a number of doctors and scientists and data scientists who helped with this analysis, but for fear of reprisal, for fear of retaliation, they need to keep their names quiet. And then once the paper was done, there's a whole network. You're going to hear from a bunch of people on tonight's webcast that have helped get this paper into the ecosystem, right? And we're already seeing the impact of this paper. So it's really been not just an EPPC project, but a coalition-wide project. What I want to do is, in the time I have, is just touch on 5 issues. I want to talk about the findings of the report. I want to talk about the data that we relied on. I want to talk about what we're asking the Trump administration to do. I want to talk about some of the history of this from the Clinton, Obama, and Biden years, and then close with something about this current political moment. All right, so first, the findings. This is the largest known study of the mifepristone abortion pill. It's based on an analysis of real-world data on an all-payer insurance database claims. It includes over 865,000 prescribed mifepristone abortions from 2017 to 2023. All right, when we crunched all these numbers, what we found is that 10.93% of women who are prescribed a mifepristone abortion will experience a serious adverse event. That's 1 in 9 women. By serious adverse events, we mean things like what you just saw in that video. Things like sepsis, infection, hemorrhaging, blood transfusions. And this is all within a 45-day window of when mifepristone was first prescribed, right? So it's a relatively short window. This is 22 times higher than what the FDA claims on the label, which is that it's a less than 0.5% rate of a serious adverse event. Okay, so first off, nearly 11% of the time, there's a serious adverse event. That's our first paper. Second paper, it gets worse because not only is the abortion pill unsafe, it's not as effective as prescribed as they claim. So we find that 5% of the time, a mifepristone abortion prescription doesn't work as intended, meaning either a surgical procedure was needed to complete the abortion or a second dose of the abortion pill mifepristone was prescribed. Notably, there is no FDA guidance on administering a second dose of the abortion pill mifepristone. No professional medical association recommends doing so, although some abortion clinics on their website say they'll do so. There are no studies, no guidelines on a second dose at all, which is particularly concerning. So the data shows it's neither safe nor effective, despite what the manufacturer claims. All in all, it's over 13% of women, that's 1 in 7, will experience either a serious adverse event or have to undergo additional abortion attempts. All right. The data. This is the largest data set that we know of. As I said, over 865,000 mifepristone abortions. This is 28 times larger than the data that the FDA relied on when it did its approval of mifepristone. It's also much more recent data. Right? This data is from 2017 to 2023, the past 7-8 years now. It's also real-world data. It's not clinical controlled under ideal practices. There's value to clinical studies, like don't get me wrong, but there's also some value to the insurance data studies. because this is showing what's happening in real world practices. And in particular, what's happening in real world practices where the safety provisions have been removed, right? The FDA relies on outdated ideal condition trials. Our data relies on what's actually happening today. And you don't need to take my word for it. We've been calling on the Trump administration, the FDA, to replicate our study, right? They have access to this data. We relied on Medicaid, Medicare, TRICARE, VA, and then a bunch of private insurances, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, Cigna, et cetera, et cetera. The government has access to all the government data. It can purchase the private insurance data just like we did. All right, so what are we asking the Trump administration to do? Third point, just today, Senator Josh Hawley cited our study during a hearing where Secretary Kennedy was present, and he asked Secretary Kennedy, the head of HHS, if he was aware of our study. RFK says, yes, he's aware of the study. He says he finds the results alarming. He said at the very least, the label needs to be updated, but more importantly, he said he's instructing Commissioner McCary, the head of the FDA, to conduct a thorough review. We're confident that if they do a thorough review, they're going to find the same exact thing in the data that we find. So we're calling on the Trump FDA to immediately reinstate the earlier, stronger patient safety protocols. Second, to mandate a full reporting of all of the serious adverse events, and to conduct its own study to consider whether or not it should be approved in the first place, right? Reinstating the safety protections is the first step to evaluating should this pill even be on the market to begin with. Okay, next I want to go through the Clinton, Obama, and Biden era. When the FDA originally approved this pill, it was during the Clinton administration, and it had a whole host of safety regulations. And then one by one, the Obama and the Biden administration got rid of these protections. Originally, the Clinton FDA required 3 in-person doctor visits. First, when the pill was prescribed and dispensed. Second, 3 days later, when the second abortion pill is taken. And then third, 2 weeks later to rule out and to check for complications. Now there are no in-person doctor visits. And this can be fatal because doctors have no idea whether or not a patient is experiencing an ectopic pregnancy, nor do they have any idea if the patient is otherwise healthy enough to be taking the mifepristone abortion pill. Second, it used to only be prescribed by a physician and dispensed in an office and taken in the doctor's office. Now, non-doctors can prescribe the pill via telehealth, and it can be dispensed via mail order. Third, it used to require a follow-up visit and reporting of all the adverse events. Now there's no follow-up visit, and the only reporting requirements are for lethal events. And then lastly, it used to be up to 7 weeks gestation. Now it's up to 10 weeks, and our data shows that it's being prescribed even after 10 weeks. Okay, so let me wrap up this political moment. Whether you like President Trump or dislike President Trump, whether you like what he and his running mate, Vice President Vance, said during the campaign or dislike what they said, they made 3 promises. And they're running on a promises made, promises kept agenda right now. They promised that they would make America healthy again. They promised that they would undo all of the misguided policies from the Biden and the Obama era. And they promised that they would leave abortion to the states. You can't make America healthy again if you are authorizing a pill that has a 10.93% rate of serious adverse event. If 1 in 9 women who are taking this pill experience this serious adverse event, that's not making America healthy. You can't say that you're going to undo all of the misguided actions of the Biden and the Obama administration and then leave in place their removal of all of the safety protections. You need to reinstate the safety protections that the Clinton FDA originally insisted on. And then lastly, you cannot leave abortion to the states if you allow California to be the abortion pill dispensary for the entire nation. So long as you can do telehealth visits and mail order abortion across state lines, many of our pro-life state laws are in essence meaningless because, as David, you already mentioned, virtually 2/3 of all abortions are now chemical, and mailing them across state lines will interfere with that. So look, women deserve better. As you mentioned, women deserve to know the truth. As you mentioned, this is an opportunity to protect women and to save babies. And reinstating these safety regs is just the first step towards eventually the elimination of chemical abortion altogether.
Mm, mm. Ryan Anderson, thank you so much. I'm going to definitely bring you back at the very end to share any closing thoughts, but I just reflect on, before I got involved in the pro-life movement, I worked in the pharmaceutical industry and I sold medicines in the diabetes arena as well as in the cardiovascular drug arena. And I saw various drugs that were taken off the market, including a diabetes drug that had roughly 2% adverse events in market use, and it was ultimately taken off the market. I saw another drug that was used for arthritis that was taken off the market for a much lower percentage of incident of adverse events. And I just think we have to really sound the alarm to our elected officials. And thankfully, your paper that has now gained the attention of the top leaders, the HHS and the FDA, and together with all the other leaders who will be sharing this evening, let's keep building this voice and amplify it until it actually raises awareness, changes those safety regulations, and ultimately, please God, gets this drug pulled off the market. So Ryan, we'll hear from you again. Thank you so much. And there's been so much just since this news first started breaking last week, it's continuing to break this week. The media coverage around the harm caused by abortion pills has been tremendous and is just one of the many, many, many examples, but just one that really illustrates how powerful this information is. Let's take a look at how Daily Wire host Michael Knowles covered these developments on his show. Take a look.
Big study just came out. Big study done by the Ethics and Public Policy Center, very respected think tank. 11% of women who take the abortion pill will suffer health consequences, serious health consequences as a result. And the left doesn't want you to know about this, and the pro-abortion lobby doesn't want you to know about this. The abortion pill is not just a minor issue in pro-life advocacy. The abortion pill now constitutes the majority of abortions. Most women who kill their babies do so with the abortion pill. That wasn't true 5 years ago. It is true now. So we should, one, focus our efforts on limiting the abortion pill or eradicating it if it's possible. And the way that we do that is not merely by yelling at people. It's by showing the myriad ways in which the abortion pill is harmful, not only to the baby, but also to the woman. Got to let women know this. One, for their own good, because we actually, even though these women are doing a very terrible thing, which is murder their children, one still loves them. One still has a Christian love for them. One might even have a familial or a community love for them. There might be women you know. And a lot of these women don't have good information. And even if the women do understand the moral gravity of killing their own child, even if they do admit that to themselves, a lot of women won't admit that to themselves. If you tell them, by the way, if you take this abortion pill, there's a greater than 1 in 10% chance you're going to seriously damage your health. Just that alone will very likely reduce their likelihood to do it. Sometimes pro-lifers or people who are in any way take the abortion issue seriously, they'll say that the pro-life focus on women as the victims of abortion is misguided because the women are killing their children. So we shouldn't talk about them as victims. They're the perpetrators of the crime. And sometimes it's both. Sometimes women are pressured into it or even forced into the abortion. Sometimes they do it with full consent. But as we've pointed out on this show many, many times, freedom is willing predicated on knowledge. So if you don't have a command of your will because you've abused it through vice and license, and if you don't have knowledge because you're ignorant or you've been taught things that aren't true, you cannot truly be said to be free. That's the classical and conservative understanding of freedom, not the left-wing version of freedom, the liberal version of freedom, which is just perfect neutrality in choosing. But these women really are not free, either because they've damaged their wills through vice or because they're ignorant or both, likely both. But in any case, the reason to focus on the risks to women from these abortions is a prudential choice to stop the abortions. When we point out that abortions are very bad for women, when we point out that the year before Roe v. Wade, not a lot of women died from illegal abortions. The left tells us thousands of women were dying. That isn't true. But when 39 women died from illegal abortions the year before Roe v. Wade, 24 women died from legal abortions. When you look at where abortion was legal and illegal, it was about as risky to have a legal abortion as an illegal abortion. When you point these things out, when you say there are risks to legal abortion, that the legal abortion industry is bad for women, you're saying a true thing. You're not lying. But you are doing that for the good of saving the babies, which is, I guess, the theme of our show today. The theme of our show is recognizing that our actions cannot be intrinsically evil or immoral in themselves, good ends don't justify immoral means. But furthermore, even good actions or morally neutral actions need to be ordered toward the highest good. They need to be ordered toward the love of God. They need to be authenticated by this genuine love of our neighbors, which is what St. Paul says. That's what he means when he says, if you have all the virtues, but you don't have charity, you're nothing. So you could be the most pro-life person in the world if you hate these women. If you go through your pro-life activism without charity, you're nothing. And the activism is probably not going to amount to anything.
That is just one of many, many examples of how this is sparking national conversations, very important conversations that need to happen so that change can happen. Now it's time to hear from a medical expert. Dr. Brick Lance is the Vice President of Advocacy and Bioethics for the Christian Medical and Dental Associations. And Dr. Lance, the question, as a board-certified surgeon, researcher, and a vice president for CMDA, can you speak to the serious medical complications that have been revealed by this new research and why women aren't being fully informed of these risks, and how should these findings shape the medical community's approach specifically regarding abortion pills moving forward?
This claims data is valuable. It's valuable for understanding the risks that we are currently placing upon women with a pregnancy, often an unplanned pregnancy. Over 10% risk of a severe adverse effect. That's ignoring the mild and the moderate risks. So these are severe effects from this drug. You know, if I practiced medicine, any type of field of medicine, in which there was a 10% or greater risk of an adverse effect, I would lose my license. We're allowing this to be practiced in our communities without any safeguards. So now we're putting hundreds of thousands, if not over 1 million women at risk. We're obviously losing over 1 million babies per year. This is also destroying families. It's also destroying men, because it's allowing men not to be men, and we are destroying the health of communities. So this data is going to be valuable for informed consent. Informed consent is informing the patient about the risks and of the procedure. So I have the privilege of being a medical director for our local pregnancy resource center, and this is going to add to our informed consent. People may complain that this is not a prospective randomized study. Those studies are good, and I hope more studies do come out in research of mifepristone. But claims data study is also quite valuable. In fact, in different fields, claims data study, because of the large volume of patients, large volume of data, has changed the way some practices occur or with certain procedures. So again, very valuable data. I would encourage you, as I've encouraged the healthcare professionals within CMDA's network, to reach out. And there's multiple ways to reach out within your community. You can contact your county medical society. You can contact your state medical association or even your state health authority. So write them letters, give them some phone calls. I would encourage you also to work with your church. We need to bathe this in prayer. So talk to leadership in your church about this inappropriate medical care that's being practiced nationwide. We don't have any safety standards for prescribing mifepristone. We used to have some in the past when it was improved in 2000, but those have all been taken away. So there's no requirement for an in-person visit, no taking of a normal history from the patient, doing an appropriate physical exam, or even doing an ultrasound. And there's no required follow-up or even reporting. So this is well below patient standards. Now, this study is also consistent with what a number of obstetricians and gynecologists have reported, but now we just have the data to give further evidence. Again, we still want to do further research. So what are some of the risks? Well, excessive hemorrhaging or excessive bleeding, and that can lead to all kinds of potential problems. Infections can be lethal. If you get septic shock, The risk of death is extremely high. Sometimes that occurs because of incomplete abortion, where there's parts of the baby left behind in the uterus. Multiple hospitalizations or prolonged hospitalization, emergency room visits, and that can be for a number of reasons, including excess pain. Not to mention ectopic pregnancies. Taking this with an ectopic pregnancy is ill-advised and inappropriate. And we haven't even touched on the mental health care of these patients that go through these distress. So again, we need proper medical evaluation. We need appropriate care for patients. And this simply is ignoring all of that. You know, the emergency room physicians will see these women when they come into the emergency room, and often the women do not report that they've taken the oral mifepristone. So the ER doctor is just left to treat the patient, whatever the diagnosis is. But if we had further, confession or admission of taking this drug, further tracking of the drug, seeing physicians, then we could prevent a lot of these excessive complications. You know, some claim it's as safe as Tylenol. It's just not true. It's not even close. So we're putting literally over 1 million at risk every year by practicing with ideology, medical ideology, if you can call it medical, which I wouldn't, and we're ignoring the safety and health of patients. You know, this is just going to cause tragic results. So again, I encourage you to reach out to your church and to the medical communities. Help us be a voice. And I think the more people that speak out, the better. Now, some of you may live in a pro-life state in which I'll put in air quotes that mifepristone is illegal. But I will tell you that there are women in your state that are getting mifepristone via mail. We've tried to put a stop to that. But still physicians are sending mifepristone across state lines, which is even illegal. So again, this is practicing ideology and not safe medical care. So please, I encourage you to speak out. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Brick-Lance. I appreciate you using your medical authority and credibility to help educate all of us, but also to educate the public. Next up, we're going to hear from Maria Baer. Maria is an acclaimed journalist and writer, as well as a podcaster. And Maria, the question I have for you as a journalist and also as a pregnancy center volunteer, how are you seeing abortion pills affecting women today? And why is the public so rarely hearing these stories?
Thank you. So we know that women are being misled about this medication. It's happening on an individual basis and also on a culture-wide basis. Women who show up to the crisis pregnancy center and are considering abortion or vulnerable to abortion really see this medication as a quick fix to their crisis. This is like having a headache and popping an Advil. It is their ticket to going back to the day before they got pregnant. We know that that's not possible. Unfortunately, they're being misled on this by the medical community and by the abortion industry. Unfortunately, they're just being abandoned to it. We know that women are getting the medication through the mail, over the phone, and often without ever even seeing a medical professional in person before getting the medication. And that means that women are being abandoned to deal with both the emotional and the physical impacts of taking the medication on their own. And we now know, thanks to this report, that the adverse medical reactions are happening at a rate far higher than women are told about. But we also know that even when the pill works exactly as planned, that this is devastating for women and they're left to deal with it on their own. The pro-life community, on the other hand, including many of us on this call here, are here to stand with women. This is happening on an individual basis at crisis pregnancy centers, which are walking women through their crisis. It's also happening in a movement-wide sense by many of us here on this call who are hoping and standing for the truth and hoping to communicate this truth to women. So I'm really excited, not just that we have this new report now, but that we have new leadership at HHS and at the FDA. And so I think to take advantage of this opportunity, what we're asking all of us to do is to join the chorus of people that have gone to stopharmingwomen.org. you can click on the red button in the top right corner that says Take Action, and you can send a note to Congress, to Dr. Marty McCary at the FDA, and to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. at HHS and tell them to suspend the FDA approval of this medication. More research is needed, and women deserve this protection. So this is just another step in the pro-life community's ability to stand for women and to stand for the protection of women. Please go to stopharmingwomen.org and click on Take Action. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Maria Bear. And to make it even easier for you, right down below this video, whether you're watching on a laptop, a tablet, a mobile device, there are two different buttons. There's a white button that says stopharmingwomen.org. That will open a new tab in your browser. So you'll continue to be a part of this event. That'll take you to the website to learn all about the data and the information we're sharing here tonight. And then the other button is that red Take Action button that Maria was talking about. If you click that, it will take you directly to the Action Center, and you're going to be hearing more about that as we go. But that's your opportunity to communicate your message to the Trump administration, to the head of HHS, to the FDA, to Congress. And why is this important? Because frankly, Ryan said it earlier, we're simply taking the Trump administration, we're taking the head of Health and Human Services at their word. And to understand what we mean by that, let's go back, rewind the clock a little bit, and let's take a look at what RFK Jr. said during his confirmation hearings. Take a look.
Sorry, Senator. As I said to Senator Langford, I think it's immoral to have a policy where patients are not allowed to report adverse events and where doctors are discouraged from doing that. President Trump has asked me to study the safety of mifepristone. He has not yet taken a stand on how to regulate it. Whatever he does, I will implement those policies, and I will work with this committee, make those policies make sense.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy.
So we're taking them at their word, and this is our opportunity. Take action right now. Next up, let's hear from another national leader, Marjorie Dannenfelser. Marjorie is the president of Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America. Marjorie, from your vantage point in the Washington, D.C. area on Capitol Hill, how is the FDA and our government up until now failing women on abortion pill safety, and what immediate actions should be taken so as to protect women from all of this harm?
Thank you. If the FDA is truly committed to the welfare and the health of women, then they need to start over. They need to start over using good information and not bad information. It needs to begin with a high amount of scientific curiosity and a desire for transparency for the women of this country. We can definitely point to now good information, actual real world, real women experiencing severe negative effects of the use of the pill over a long period of time. With the studies that have come out just recently, the FDA can start there. And then, of course, use all of the enormous federal funding that they have to dig deeper, to do whatever they need to make sure that they're actually serving women. Right now, what's happened is that what we're doing is we're serving ideology, we're serving the institution of abortion, but we're certainly not serving women. And this has certainly been the center point of the abortion lobby for decades, to be devoted to the institution of abortion and not women themselves. After all the promises of freedom, after all the promises that if your baby is gone, you will be successful, where have we ended up? She is now on the floor of her bathroom having her own self-done abortion. Like our friend Elizabeth, she is delivered a complete baby in an amniotic sac, and she is wondering, what do I do with this child? I will have to flush my child down the drain. So she'll be living in her abortion clinic and use the mail as the abortion doctor, where no doctor was ever involved or told her the truth about what would happen. Our government needs to step up. More women like Elizabeth all over the country. Hundreds of thousands are experiencing horrible side effects, and it should not be a secret. If it's a secret, it's ideological. If it's transparent, then the information will serve women, and women will not continue to suffer. So it's time to go back to the drawing board, use good information, and change the rules. Make sure that the REMs are reestablished, that in-person visits are required at a minimum, sonograms to find out if you have ectopic pregnancy. All the rules need to be reestablished, and then eventually, definitely as soon as possible, this pill needs to be taken off the market. Thanks for your time, and God bless.
Marjorie Dana Felser, thank you for your leadership, and thank you for helping us to understand that we do need to call upon the FDA right now, immediately reinstate safety protections, and then pull this dangerous drug off the market before more women are harmed, before more children die. Next up, we're going to hear from Katie McCoy. Katie's a theologian, an author, and a speaker. Katie, abortion pills, we've heard this discussed already on this webcast. They're being portrayed by the manufacturer and the FDA as safe, simple, effective. Why is this narrative so misleading, and how does it detrimentally impact women's lives?
Thank you. You know, what's striking about all the rhetoric surrounding mifepristone is the degree of propaganda and negligence required to keep it on the market. You might remember a few years ago, there was a nationwide recall of an antacid called Zantac because research showed it might increase your risk of eventually getting cancer. And our government said, get it off the shelves, it isn't worth the risk. Just last week, our FDA issued a warning for something called gas station heroin. Have you heard about this? It is an addictive over-the-counter substance for anxiety, and you can get it just about anywhere. Gas station heroin has 35 documented cases of adverse effects, and the number of deaths linked to it, 2. And our government said, stay away from this stuff. It isn't worth the risk. But when it comes to mifepristone, tens of thousands of documented reports of serious or life-threatening complications and the number of deaths associated with mifepristone, at least 15. And our government has said nothing. Apparently, women's health is worth the risk. Because, see, access to mifepristone, it was never based on information. It was based on ideology. It wasn't based on information that the Obama administration removed mandatory reporting of adverse effects. That was based on ideology. Just like it wasn't based on information that the Biden administration said you can get these pills via telehealth and your mailbox. That was also based on ideology. These reports are unimpeachable. Our FDA has enough information to at least issue a warning. And if they don't, if they bow to the ideology of abortion at all costs, then this whole Make America Healthy Again movement will have caved in to everything they promised us to combat, letting politics drive policy, letting the market drive medicine. I'm hopeful that they'll do what's right. But it's up to you and me to hold our government officials accountable. We cannot let them off the hook because the health, the safety, and the lives of American women just aren't worth the risk.
Thank you for strong, powerful words, Katie McCoy. And next up, we're going to hear from another leader, national leader, Lila Rose. She's the president of Live Action. And Lila, abortion pills are being widely promoted and delivered across state lines and even from other countries. What harm is being caused by the distribution of abortion pills, but specifically through some of these mail order abortions?
Thank you so much, David B. Wright, for organizing this incredibly important webcast, and a huge shout out to Ryan Anderson and EPPC for this very important report that they have made public. I think it's incredibly important for the American public to be aware of what is happening with today's modern abortion industry. Because of the former pro-abortion Clinton administration, the abortion pill was fast-tracked and approved by the FDA in the 1990s. The reality is the abortion pill is not medicine. It's designed to kill an innocent, developing human being, and it should not be on the market to begin with. The fact that our Food and Drug Administration, which is tasked with protecting the American people from deadly substances and doing some form of regulation of the drug and pharmaceutical industries, is allowing a pill that is designed to kill. It is not healing anyone. It's not helping anyone. It's killing. That this drug is even allowed on the market is a travesty. The abortion pill is also very dangerous for women, as we know, thanks to the great work of EPPC. 1 out of every 10 women experiencing severe health consequences. Right now, there's a wild, wild west for the abortion drug. It is sold via mail with just a telemed appointment. There's no in-person consultation, and the drug is available on the market, again, for the destruction of innocent human lives. So we call on the Trump administration to take immediate action for the sake of children as well as women and for their protection. There's one other aspect to this that needs to be mentioned, which is the fact that when abortion pills are ordered via mail, as they are today, this ordering process can include an element of abuse. What I mean by that is, for many young girls especially who are victims of sexual abusers, if they become pregnant, then their abuser wants to take them to an abortion clinic or get them an abortion, often under duress. What this looks like in our reporting at Live Action has been dozens of cases that we have documented of young girls who have been the victims of sexual abuse, and their abusers take them to an abortionist in order to kill the baby, cover up the evidence of the abuse, which is that pregnancy. This often sends a girl back into sometimes years more of abuse at the hands of the perpetrator. With the abortion pill, it makes it all the more easy for abusers to abuse their victims, because they can simply set up a telemed appointment and have this drug shipped directly to their home or to wherever they will be abusing this young person, and they can have no in-person consultation, no doctor to intervene. Instead, this young girl now is being forced to take the abortion pill. There are actually cases of forced abortions that have been documented because of abusers. This is not healthcare, and our children need protection, and women deserve better. It's time for the FDA to take immediate action. Thank you so much for your important work, and thank you for standing for life.
All right. Thank you very much, Lila Rose. It is time to tell the FDA to take action. And how do you do that? Right down below this video, 2 buttons. Focus on the red one. It says take action. What do you think that means? It's time for you to take action. If you haven't already, click that button, whether you're on a phone, whether you're on your computer. I literally just pulled this up while Lila was finishing up there. And if you click the take action, it opens up a tab that says stop the harm, pull dangerous chemical abortion drugs. You can read down through the letter, and then down at the bottom, you have the opportunity to review your message and send that message directly to the head of the FDA, HHS, U.S. senators, and your U.S. representative. All of that can be done. I know John Mize will be covering a little bit more about this at the end, but I just want to let you know how important it is, as Lila said, for each of us to take action. Now, what is a great webcast if you don't have 2 speakers named Katie, but spelling their names differently? So it's time for us to hear next from Katie Faust. Katie is the president of Them Before Us. Katie, how are you doing tonight?
Really good. Thanks for having me. And thank you for convening this incredible meeting, because we do need to take action on this immediately.
Amen. Amen. Katie, chemical abortion, it's been presented as empowerment, but what are the pressures? What are the profit motives that are actually driving this push? And who is it that's really suffering?
Well, we have always known that 100% of children exposed to mifepristone suffer. But now, thanks to the EPPC, we know that 1 in 9 women suffer significant medical harms, sepsis, emergency room visits, infections. I mean, this is not like headaches and stomach cramps. Like, this is like major medical issues. And we now have full knowledge of what's being done because of this extensive data. What I wanted to know is who benefits, because it's obviously not the child. And now it appears it's not the women either. So who does benefit from the fast tracking that this drug endured and the deregulation that took place under the Biden administration? And it looks to me like it's big pharma and big government that benefit from this. And so what happened? Like, the Biden administration said, we don't need in-person visits anymore. You can do that through telehealth. And then in 2023, they said that commercial pharmacies like CVS and Walgreens could administer the abortion pill. And what this did was it functionally served as a de facto subsidy for big pharma. Now, I looked into Danco Labs, the manufacturer of mifepristone. It's really hard to get numbers on their profits, but the best that I could find is that since the advent of the abortion pill, they've had about a 452% return on investment. And every single time the government deregulates and makes the abortion pill more widely available, their profits go up. And that has been happening year over year, especially since the Biden administration took office. But my question is like, how does big government benefit from this? Because they're obviously not dispensing the pill, they're not making money, but it turns out they actually save a lot of money when abortions are more available. And that's exactly what the abortion pill does. There was a 2011 study that showed that this is 2011, so this is like 15 years ago, that public insurance programs save 6.9 billion by ending unwanted pregnancies. They save money because they are not putting any money into prenatal care, labor and delivery, or the postnatal Medicaid support that goes towards women and their newborns. So to me, this looks like a for-profit push that is taking place on the backs of innocent children and unknowing women as well. This is a children's rights failure. This is a women's rights failure. This is a human rights failure. And it turns out that making that shift between the decision between a woman and her doctor to now a decision between a woman and her mailman has not gone well for anyone. And that is what we need to let the government know now. So you can go to the stopharmingwomen.org. You can take action and you can push a button and talk directly to House members, senators, and get a message to the FDA. This is the kind of thing that a society that is characterized by justice is going to put an end to immediately.
Katie, thank you so very much, and for once again reminding us the importance of taking action and for giving us motivation to understand what we can do to be an advocate for women. Appreciate you being a part of this webcast. And now, next up, we're going to get to hear from Kristen Hawkins. Kristen is the president of Students for Life of America. Kristen is a leader of America's largest pro-life youth movement, and as someone who has personally, been at the forefront of exposing the dangers of chemical abortion up until this point, what action is needed in response to these latest revelations about abortion pill harm?
Thank you, David, for that. And that question is such an important question because, look, these drugs are extremely dangerous. They've turned every university bathroom, every bathroom in your house now into an abortion facility. Safe and legal and rare has gone to dangerous, illegal, and unlimited and taxpayer funded. I mean, it's unbelievable. This is the opposite of healthcare. This is the opposite of empowerment. Women deserve real care. They deserve real support, real alternatives, real respect. And children don't deserve to be aborted in a toilet bowl. I mean, this is unbelievable. And there's so much we've got to do. So I thank you for asking about this action question, because as people know, I'm kind of bossy. We've got to demand that the HHS, FDA, at minimum, restore the common sense safety regulations on chemical abortion pills that the pro-abortion Bill Clinton administration, and when they approved the drug, put into place. That's common sense, making sure a woman's actually pregnant before she gets them, make sure she's not experiencing life-threatening ectopic pregnancy, make sure she's not Rh negative, and there's an Rh incompatibility with her and her baby, because if she takes these pills and has an abortion, she may never be able to carry another child to term, rendering her infertile for the rest of her life. That's just common sense. And then they need to start the process of removing them from the market, restudy. Now that we have the amazing data from the Ethics and Public Policy Center, there's no doubt that it needs all to be restudied, that the studies they used in 2000, that was, Planned Parenthood helped them with, shock, the abortion industry's own studies about abortion proved to be a lie. Now that we have real data, unbiased data, they have to restudy these pills and should start removing them from the market. We've got to see the DOJ step up here and enforce our federal laws. We have the Comstock Act, which says it's illegal to ship abortion-related materials in the states. Yet that's what's happening, even in the most pro-life states in our country, like Texas and Oklahoma, that have anti-abortion laws. Illegal abortions are still happening in our states. That's why we're so honored, Students for Life Action, to have legislation that's now moved through the Oklahoma House, it's moved through the Texas Senate, and we're just waiting on the other chamber to stop the illegal flow of these drugs. Because you have to realize, girls are taking these drugs and are having serious effects no one knows about. Rapists can order these drugs, and no one even knows. There's no oversight at all going into this. It's absolutely unbelievable. And we also need to be calling for the federal defunding of Planned Parenthood and the rest of the abortion industry in this big budget reconciliation process. Because if you won't remember, Planned Parenthood is the one that did all the research for these chemical abortion pills, proving they're safe, admitted publicly that they've been illegally prescribing them and sending them into pro-life states. They're the leading distributor of these chemical abortion pills, yet they're getting almost $800 billion of our taxpayer dollars. So we got a lot to do.
Amen. We have a lot to do. Kristen Hawkins, thank you so much for your compelling words. Next up, Jor-El Godsey, president of Heartbeat International Network of Pregnancy Help Centers Coast to Coast. Jor-El, pregnancy centers nationwide, you are actually seeing the real impacts of abortion pills. What, from your vantage point and the centers that you serve, what are women really experiencing, and how are our pregnancy centers uniquely helping in this situation?
Well, David, just last week, we heard the story of a woman being slipped an abortion pill without her consent. It is in the pregnancy help community that we continue to see the effects of the FDA stripping away common sense protections for women. Easy access to online chemical abortion contributes to the coercion that women feel when facing an unplanned pregnancy. This bombshell report finally reveals the on-the-ground reality that women are facing in contrast to the whitewashing of the dangers of the abortion pill. That's why the compassionate, life-saving outreach of pregnancy help centers are as critical now as they have ever been. This is true in both in abortion states, but also in life states. Pregnancy centers continue to be on the front line of the abortion fight with care, critical medical services like ultrasound, and much more, all at no cost to her. Chemical abortion harms happen in every state because they are too available through the mail and also from unscrupulous sources from countries like China and India. Our government officials must do better than this, because every woman should be loved and supported in her pregnancy. That's what the nearly 3,000 pregnancy help centers are all about. That loving outreach includes when a woman seeks to change her mind about abortion, even if she's just started one. She still has the potential to save her baby through abortion pill reversal and our abortion pill rescue network. The woman I mentioned that was slipped the pill was able to reverse that forced abortion and save the life of her baby. We hope more research like this one can help protect women from future harms and also make abortion pill reversal more widely available for everyone who seeks it.
All right. Thank you very much, Jor-El Godsey. And next up, as we are getting close to the finish line here, next up, we're going to hear from Jenny Bradley Lichter. She's the new president of the March for Life. Jenny, why is it so important for grassroots pro-life advocates to make our voices heard to our government leaders? And does that even really make a difference? And what are the practical actions each of us can take to really help stop this abortion pill crisis for once and for all?
Hi, thank you. At the March for Life, we have seen how powerful it is when pro-life Americans come together and speak up. When we raise our voices together, hearts are moved, policies change, and lives are saved. Since Roe v. Wade was overturned, the issue of abortion has been put back in the hands of the people more than it ever was before. The Dobbs decision gives our elected representatives more opportunities to pass pro-life laws and take pro-life executive actions to protect the unborn. And of course, our elected representatives answer to us, the people. So it's really, really important, now more than ever, to let them know what you think and how you want them to act. Your voice could be the one that tips the balance, stopping a dangerous bill or changing someone's heart. One of the biggest challenges and biggest tragedies we're facing right now is the rise of dangerous chemical abortion pills. These drugs end countless precious lives, and they put women at serious risk, hurting and even killing an alarmingly high number of women, as new data shows. But here's the good news. When grassroots advocates like you speak up, lawmakers and policymakers listen. We've seen it, and we know it works. That's the power of a unified, informed, mobilized pro-life movement. So, what can you do right now? Start by reaching out to your elected representatives. It's their job to hear from you. Let them know that protecting life and safeguarding women from the dangers of abortion drugs matters to you. Tell Secretary Kennedy at HHS, too, and the leadership of the FDA. They have the authority to take these drugs off the market or at least make sure that women who take them are fully informed about the life of their baby and about the risks of the drugs. To make it super easy, visit stopharmingwomen.org. Click the red Take Action button, and you'll be able to send a message directly to the key policymakers on this issue. Also, talk to your family, friends, and neighbors about the risks of abortion pills. You can empower more people to become confident, informed advocates on behalf of women and their babies. And when it's time, vote. Show your elected officials that pro-lifers' votes depend on the willingness of politicians to protect the unborn. That's an incredibly important and powerful form of pro-life engagement. When we work together, we are a powerful force on behalf of life.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you so much for your leadership at the March for Life and also your insider knowledge from your experience working in the first Trump administration to know how powerful the voice of the people is at being able to shape the policy that influences our nation. So no pressure, but last unique speaker I'm going to bring on here is John Mize, another national leader, CEO of Americans United for Life. John, how are you doing? Any pressure about having to take us home here at the end?
I'm doing great. I am so excited and energized by all of what we've heard this evening, David.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, John, in light of all these revelations, and we've heard them different ways from different perspectives, but also from your extensive experience advocating for health, what steps, let's bring this all together, consolidate it. What do we need to do next to stop this abortion pill crisis?
Let me start, David, by applauding all of these truly amazing organizations that have worked together in partnership around a shared set of objectives. Just today, 112 organizations delivered a letter to Commissioner McCarry at the FDA and Secretary Kennedy at HHS with this singular request to put the safety of women first. We are swimming in the same direction. Over 200 women every single day are being seriously harmed. Women deserve the truth. Mifepristone should be banned by the FDA. Any other drug would be, if not for the politics of big abortion. As a crucial first step, the FDA needs to reinstate the safety measures back to the original Clinton-era approval. Act now to protect women and have your voice heard. Go to stopharmingwomen.org, click the red Take Action button to visit the Action Center, and let your members of Congress, the FDA, and HHS know it's important they act to stop harming women. Please share the link with your family, your friends, and your church community. It takes literally less than 1 minute, and collectively we can save the lives and protect women in this country. Let's flood our government with our shared voice. Thanks, David. Back to you,
John. Oh, if that don't light your fire, then your wood is wet. So I just was doing this as you were speaking. So again, click, if you're watching the video of us right now, whether it's live or the replay, click the Take Action button down below. Or if you want, go to stopharmingwomen.org, click the red Take Action button if you're on a desktop or laptop. But if you're on a mobile device, I found you have to click the little hamburger icon to get it to drop down into a black button. Either way, you'll get to the Take Action place. But when you get there, read through this, and then all you do is you determine it's going to go to Secretary of HHS Robert Kennedy, U.S. Senators, U.S. Representatives. You can hit more and add the FDA. And then the subject, the message body, enter your information, and then your mobile number, your address, and zip code, and then boom, that's it. And you literally are submitting your message. You're making your voice heard. As John said, you are flooding Capitol Hill. John, thank you for Americans United for Life for helping to facilitate this tool and for being a part of this coalition. And I am going to bring back for final words before I send us off and thank those who helped make this event possible. I'm going to bring Ryan Anderson back on one last time. Ryan, you started us off. You have been helping to lead this coalition and working with so many different partners. And now I'm going to give you the final words before we thank everyone and send them off. Anything that you want to share with the audience that's assembled here tonight on this webcast?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. And let me just close where I started. This is a coalition-wide effort. I'm fortunate I get to be the co-author of this paper. The lead author is Jamie Hall. He's the director of data sciences at EPPC. He has 2 degrees from Harvard in data analysis. There's a role for nerds like me and Jamie to do data analysis and to do academic research. There's a role for grassroots activists. There's a role for the lobbyists and the government relations people. There's a role for the doctors and the pregnancy resource centers. There's a role for the culture shapers, the communicators, the social media influencers. There's a role for everyone on this webcast, right? Wherever you fit in. Maybe you're a nerd. Maybe you're a grassroots person. Maybe you're volunteering at a pregnancy resource center. Maybe you're engaged in activism. Wherever it is, we need you to plug in. And then the last thing I'll say, there's a role for the church. And maybe that's the preeminent role. And there's a role, when I say the church, I don't just mean like the new pope or a pastor or a priest. I mean each and every one of us, right? There's a role for every one of us to be praying for the success of this project. But the only reason we care about the success of this project is because we care about women and we care about babies. And ultimately, we care about protecting both of them. And that's what we should be praying for here. And so, David, thank you. This has been an encouraging webcast. And, I'm very pleased to be a part of it.
Amen. Well, I think about the alarming nature of the data, and as your team was uncovering so much of this alongside so many others, how it's very difficult. It's very heart-wrenching to know how many people are being harmed. But I think tonight, in the midst of this darkness, we've allowed a light to pierce through that and to help everyone here to understand you're not powerless, you're now empowered. You now have a tool to be able to affect change positively to protect mothers and to protect their children. And so, first of all, Ryan, thanks to you. Thanks to all of our presenters. I'm not going to name them all because we've just all heard from them, but thanks to each and every one of them. I also want to make a special thank you. John mentioned the coalition. Down on the page where this webcast is streaming right now, where we're live or you're watching the replay, there's a list of organizations. I'm going to run down through them really quickly because I just want you to see that this is made up of so many different groups. Some of the groups probably you're a part of. A Woman's Concern, Abacare Pregnancy Resource Center, Ablaze for Life, Alliance for Life, Americans United for Life, Anglicans for Life, Arizona Life Coalition, Arkansas Family Council, Birth Choice of San Marcos, California Democrats for Life, CareNet, Choose Life Coalition, Choose Life Marketing, Christ Medicus Foundation, Christ Medical and Dental Associations, Cogency Strategic, Confidential Care Mobile Ministry, Dr. Michael New, Elliott Institute, Ethics and Public Policy Center, Foundation for Life, Frederick County Right to Life, Frontline Policy, Good Counsel Homes for Mothers, Guiding Star Cedar Valley, Heartbeat International, Heroic Media, JPG Life Center, Vitae Clinic, Law for Life Talk, Leadership Institute, Liberty Council, Life Leadership Conference, Life Victory Enterprises, Live Action, March for Life, Maryland Family Institute, Massachusetts Citizens for Life, we're past the halfway point, Moral Outcry, Natural Womanhood, NIFLA, NMFAM, Obria Medical Clinics, PNW, Operation Outcry, PA Family Institute, Parents for Life Virginia, Pennsylvania Pro-Life Federation, Pregnancy Care Center, Pro-Life Action Ministries, Pro-Life in the Public Square, Pro-Life Europe, Pro-Life Montana, Rehumanize International, Right to Life League, Right to Life of Indianapolis, Right to Life of Northeast Ohio, Smart Women's Healthcare, Silent No More Awareness, StandUpGirl.com Foundation, Students for Life of America, Susan B. Anthony, Pro-Life America, The Family Leader, The Justice Foundation, Them Before Us, True Choice Medical Clinics, Virginia Anti-Abortion Uprising, Virginia Coalition of Pregnancy Centers, Women's Care Center, and finally, Wyandotte Pregnancy Clinic. And the reason I wanted to read all those is because those groups all committed to be partners in spreading the word. And we told them that we would not only list them on this page, but thank them personally. If you're a part of one of these groups, thank them for being a part of this coalition effort and continue to be involved in their efforts. And most importantly, and Ryan, I just want to continue to build on what you shared. I want to thank each and every person who is here to know that together we truly can make a powerful, life-saving, culture-shaping difference. So as a last thought, if you haven't already, go to stopharmingwomen.org, click the Take Action button, take that 1 minute, enter your information in, send a clear message. Let's send a unified voice to Congress, to the HHS, to the FDA, and let's take constructive, productive action right now to protect women from further harm and stop this dangerous abortion pill for once and for all. Do it yourself, get everyone you know to do it, and together we truly can make a difference. Thank you so much for being a part of this webcast tonight. Thank you for everything that you do to advance the cause of life. God bless you, and until next time, we'll see you again.